They got some undercover internet investigations going on in this episode of Pod Jerky. This is what happens when you have too much time and too much awesome and impressive. Open up your audio channels to receive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Pod Jerky. We are your hosts, Director Awesome and Master Impressive. On a previous episode, we did conspiracy theories, and we touched on 9/11, Sandy Hook. We did the moon landing, and we did suspicious deaths with JFK, Martin Luther King, and Marilyn Monroe. On today's episode, we're going to touch on some of the conspiracies out there that are a little bit more profound. We're going to talk about UFOs, Bigfoot, and the Loch Ness Monster. Now, let's actually move right into the UFO portion of it. And why do we believe in UFOs? We live in a universe that is infinite. And are we to believe that we are the only planet with life on it? As per estimates, there are 100 billion galaxies in the universe. The Milky Way, which is the galaxy that we live in, is estimated to have more than 100 billion planets. Can we be the only planet with life on it?
There's different views on that, and some people say, yes, we're alone in the universe, and some people think, no, we're not. That can't be true. But I was doing some research online and just checking out some of the interviews that people have given. So, for example, the military pilots, astronauts that have been out on the space station or in the space shuttle. Like, these are top of the line professionals, and their A game is on all the time. And they can't even describe what they're seeing. What they're recounting is these crafts that are pulling these maneuvers, which are not humanly possible, because if there was a human piloting these objects, they would be dead just due to G-forces. So what are these UFOs? Some people have said that it might be some military tech, some advanced drone system that they're using. A lot of people have been saying that it just could be a spiritual manifestation. So, for example, demons in the atmosphere that are being manifest right now because things are so bad and humanity is so corrupt, and now we're just seeing all the hidden stuff behind the scenes in the universe that isn't available to us. So everything on the spiritual level is becoming more manifest to us. You know, things like that. Do I believe in UFOs as aliens coming from other solar systems? I would say I'm very skeptical about that. I don't know about you, Director Awesome, but that's my take. I mean, I would have to actually see the thing right in front of me to believe it.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking at things that we have never seen physically, and any footage that's ever been taken seems always to be a grainy picture or grainy video. Nothing's been really clear to our eyes that hasn't been proven to be a faked video or anything like that. So I don't necessarily believe that there are aliens out there. However, do we have to believe that there is something else out there just due to the fact that the galaxy is infinite? There is a possibility of that actually existing just due to the fact that we never see the end of the universe. So we don't know if there is anything out there.
Well, even, for example, with the ocean, we don't really know what's under there as well. If we see things come up to the surface, then we say, oh, yeah, look, that exists. Look, it's right there floating in front of us. But otherwise, there's a lot of things down there that we don't know about.
There's actually conspiracies that the aliens use the oceans as part of a, I guess, underground tunnel or underground way of transporting in and out of the atmosphere. There's some secrets down there to the depths of the ocean that we haven't figured out yet. I don't know where people come up with these stories or where these conspiracies come from, but I've actually read and seen on television shows that these are actually some of the conspiracies that are out there.
So what you're actually saying is a Justice League under the sea.
Pretty much, you know. Maybe Aquaman is swimming down there. We don't know.
Yeah, you never know. I never heard about that, actually. That's really bizarre. What was that movie that was out not too long ago with the mechs, and they had to go into the sea, and there was that portal into another dimension where they had to go in and take out the aliens with a nuke? I think it was Pacific Rim. Yeah, but there you go. So
Yeah.
just apply that to space.
I don't know. I don't know what's out there. Just over time, over the videos that you've seen, over documentaries that you've seen, over material that you've read, everything points back to Area 51, right? And this is just like people believe that Area 51 is researching and experimenting on aliens and their spacecrafts, right? So what had happened is in Roswell, New Mexico, I believe it was 1947, I believe it was, that something had crashed over there. And in the beginning, they actually issued a press release stating that a flying disc had been recovered near Roswell, New Mexico. And this press release was quickly withdrawn. Officials stated that it was actually a weather balloon that had been misidentified. So the story changed very quickly about what had crash landed there. And why is everything being covered up to the point where Area 51 is so off limits, you can't get anywhere near there without being shot at or escorted out of there. Area 51 is a huge, huge part of the conspiracies of UFOs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think that they would shoot you right away. I think if you came in guns a-blazing and got to maybe, let's say, a certain portion of their territory, so they probably have zones, right? So they have the outer zone where they come and they just say, you should probably turn back. And then probably if you hit the next zone, then maybe they might take you out because let's face it, if they have secret military tech there, they want to protect it at all costs, right? They don't need some incursions there as well. They got enough of that going on right now. But yeah, I don't know. Again, a lot of people have been saying that it's not so much the military side, even though there's a good portion that believe that. But there's a lot of the drone technology right now that you can fake a lot of stuff and it looks so believable. They had some sort of ribbon UFO thing in the States. I think it was in California or in some of the southern states there. Some people were just saying that it's just a drone carrying behind it some sort of light trail device, and they can just program the lights to go on and off. With those drones, you can do whatever you want. You can have swarms of drones doing all sorts of funky stuff out there. So there's that. And then again, a lot of people were saying that it just could be we're seeing the spiritual side of things manifest these days. So everything that's there, but we don't see, right? Because we're living in our physical world, the natural world, not the spiritual. They're saying demons. A lot of people think that way. And they're saying that it's more so now that they are seeing these demons manifest as UFOs or whatever shape they want us to see because things are so bad and the state of mankind is so corrupt that we're just seeing things as they are. The blinders have been pulled off, and that's why we're seeing all this stuff now. The frequency has just gone through the roof in the past couple of years. And you can relate that to how quickly humanity's gone down this slope of craziness and evil and greed and corruption. And that also ties back into some of the other episodes that we talked about before, too. It's the fallen state of man. So it could be that. I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider.
Well, at the same time, just like you were talking about before, you've talked about people actually coming forth, like army people and people in the military that are coming forth with seeing sightings of all of this stuff, right? And like a retired brigadier general, he was the former commander officer of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He actually told researchers that a spacecraft had crashed, alien bodies were recovered, and the event was covered up by the U.S. government. So here we are again talking about another cover-up. What is it? What is the purpose of this cover-up? Are they hiding something from us just that they don't want us to know something? Or are they working on technology? Or are we talking about a spiritual thing here?
I actually created a page on our PodBeam site that has resources. So I think going forward, if we have anything else to add in addition to our podcast episode, like any resources that we find on the net, any research that we come across, we'll just post it in that section there. So if anybody is subscribing to our podcast webpage there at PodBeam, you guys get first dibs on the good stuff that we're posting there, and we won't be posting that anywhere else. So I just created that, and I think we're going to be adding a few articles here and there going forward.
And it's just to give you some information, some stuff to read on, just so that you don't think that we're just making this stuff up. The information is out there. We're not coming up with this off the top of our heads. So we do want to post some of the stuff and give credit to where some of this information is coming from.
Now, I wanted to say something. I heard the episode with Mrs. Awesome, and you guys were talking about the hum. And there was a part where you told her that it was just actually you humming on the couch.
Yes. Yes.
I was laughing so hard because I could totally see that, because for our listeners, you have to understand that we've messed with people like that at work before many times. So for example,
we're ball breakers, right?
Yeah.
We're ball breakers.
So playing music from my cell phone, and I hide it in my jacket so it comes out muffled, and it's hard to find the direction where the music is coming from.
And people don't figure it out.
People say, do you guys hear music? And we're like, no, we don't hear anything. It's like, what are you talking about? And we're like totally deadpan. So we come off as completely believable. And these
social
people,
experiments.
Oh yeah. This is just one of the many social experiments that we carry out at work. And we're going to be presenting some of those in future episodes. And that is going to be some funny crap, let me tell you, because we just yank everybody's chain at work. It is so funny.
Hopefully they don't listen to this, because then they're going to know what we're up to, and then they're going to figure us out and expect that it's us all the time, right?
Well, they already know it's the Jerk Squad. So
yeah. Well, let me tell you a little bit of a story. This was from about 20 years ago, and I am not saying that I saw a UFO.
Wait, did you get abducted? You didn't get abducted.
I didn't get abducted. But so what
they dropped you off at a Tim Hortons.
So what it was is a friend and I were actually out driving. I don't remember if we were heading to a club or if we were heading back home from the club. I don't remember what time it was. It was over 20 years ago. And we actually saw something floating over a house in the distance, and it looked about the size of a car, and it was like really bright. And we didn't know what it was. We just, kind of decided to drive towards it because we actually both looked at each other and said, like, what the fuck is that? So
wait. I have to ask, were you guys on the hooch that night
We weren't, I was still driving my car. So I was like, I was being responsible. We drove towards it. When we got closer to it, it just kind of flew off before we got there. Now, don't think I'm crazy here. Just kind of hear me out. I'm not saying that it was a UFO. This was over 20 years ago. I'm not sure what technology existed back then in terms of like drones or remote flying planes. So could it have possibly been a neighbor's flying a drone over the house? Sure, but
you said 20 years ago, right? Unless this was some sort of military testing of some vehicle, some unmanned vehicle, because drones, I don't think have been around for that long. I might be mistaken, but
that's what I mean, right? So I don't know what the technology was back then. We were younger. We didn't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. And we were just, going out, having fun, going to the clubs, doing all the actual teenager kind of mid-20s stuff. Yeah. And, it was just something that we had never seen before. And I never took it as, was that a UFO? It was just kind of there and then kind of gone. And my friend could collaborate this story for you. He's not actually going to come on the podcast and actually give a whole, story about it. But if anyone were to see him and ask him this question, he would actually say, yeah, that actually happened.
So are we talking?
It's not me. I'm not crazy.
So are we talking an imaginary friend here, or is this a real friend?
Yeah, it's an imaginary friend. I actually don't talk to him that often anymore. Kind of lost touch over the years, but this actually did happen. We were just confused. We just didn't know what happened. We never, ever told anybody we saw a UFO. We just said it was just strange, because from a distance, it looked a lot bigger. As we got closer, the thing disappeared. So, I mean, we don't know what happened, what it was. Could have been a light just hanging over the house that somebody shut off. Maybe, I don't know. Right. So this is the things that you have to think about of, is this what people are seeing out there? Are they seeing things, in their head, and they're not actually seeing what they think they're seeing?
Yeah, but you said it was the size of a car. So
well, from a distance, that's what it looked like. And I'm talking about from a distance. I'm not talking about like just down the street. It was just something that was bright off in the distance that we took a look at, and just caught kind of out of the corner of our eyes while we were driving. So that was just, one of my experiences. Never seen anything like it again. Never, cross my mind that I saw a UFO, because I don't think I did. But it was just an experience that I had, that this is probably what other people are going through.
Well, the only thing that I've ever seen that might even come close to that would be some sort of natural phenomena like sundogs. There was this sort of ring around the moon, but the ring wasn't really far out in the atmosphere. It seemed very close in a way that I can't even describe. And that was weird and interesting. I'm sure that might have been some sort of environmental effect or something going on there. It wasn't a UFO, it wasn't aliens or anything like that, but it was strange. There's a lot of unexplained things in
you
our
have
reality.
To think too,
you know?
like, do you have light reflecting off of something that
The swamp gas.
Like there's a lot of explanations for a lot of things that are seen out there. The people that talk about abductions, the people that talk about like seeing them. I know with you and I, we have to see the physical proof of it, basically, right? We need to see picture, video that's not grainy for us to actually believe that this is happening, because I just don't buy that they haven't actually come more often. We haven't seen more of them. Not everybody has seen them. This is just something that people believe, and if you do, that's your prerogative, but I just don't buy it right now. I mean, I have a really good joke from South Park. It kind of makes sense, right? My wife always laughs at me because she's like, you and the TV shows and quoting South Park and all these cartoons. And I'm like, it kind of does make sense though. And what the joke is that there is a planet that has every species on it. So one planet will have a species of zebras, one planet will have a species of humans, one planet will have a species of dogs. And what happens is that each species was plucked from each planet and placed on Earth to see how we could coexist. And they turned it into a reality show. And the reality show is called Earth. So we are actually being watched by extraterrestrials out there as a reality show. And I thought that was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, that is kind of comical. And yeah, we're being punked right now.
So this whole existence isn't that anybody created this. It was just we were all plucked from different planets, thrown together to see if we could exist. Started world wars, started famine. All of this stuff happened. And people up there are enjoying this show. Now, at the end of the world, when it actually does happen, that's when the reality show gets canceled.
That's right. The subscription is over.
Okay, so we're going to move on from doing UFOs right now, and let's move into Bigfoot, or Sasquatch as they're called. Just these hairy, upright, walking, ape-like creatures that dwell in the wilderness and leave footprints.
All right. We actually reached out to a very well-known outdoorsman because he has a whole bunch of episodes out there that he did regarding the Sasquatch. And I think he was out in the BC coastal region, totally uninhabited, in the middle of nowhere. And this guy basically stayed there for a few days by himself and was just camping out like under the stars, and he would hear these weird sounds at night. Like there was these huge trunks being thrown in the forest, not branches falling down, because you can differentiate between the two, but actually things being thrown down. And he was talking with the natives that don't live in that area, but that's part of their nation, their reserve, whatever you want to call it. And they were saying that, in fact, they have experienced things which they can't explain. They have seen things, and it's common knowledge to them that they have these creatures out in the bush, and people are pretty afraid to go out there by themselves. There was a hunting party that went out with the local natives, and they got spooked, and they just basically dropped all their crap in the bush and took off. So I found that pretty interesting. So what does this guy do? Oh yeah, well, it's a good idea. Here, let me go camp by myself out in the middle of nowhere and see what happens. If that was me.
But once again, if we're talking about the UFOs in the same light as Bigfoot, why have we never, ever, ever had any kind of footage of this creature? We've never had any pictures of this creature. The one video, the famous video of Bigfoot that has come out, actually has been disproven and found out to be a hoax. And we've never seen anything to prove that Bigfoot is real. There's footprints in mud or dirt that are out there, but that's actually been proven that those have been faked as well. So what are we to believe here?
Again, it comes down to proof, hard proof. Maybe they have some bodies or they have some scientific proof. You can't take one person's word for it. It has to be backed up by multiple sources. That's what it comes down to. So, I mean, we're on the same page here. It's slightly plausible, but where's the proof? The proof is in the pudding, right? So that's what you and I need to see.
Well, a lot of questions to cryptozoologists are exactly that. Like, if Sasquatches are real, why don't we ever find their bodies? And a lot of the believers out there say that just like an ape, they actually bury their dead. So that there are Sasquatches out there, but they're all buried. There are sightings or purported sightings of Bigfoot burials in progress. So people are actually seeing that happen. Why you wouldn't go back to that site to dig up the body to find out if it is true, I don't know.
I know, that would make sense, right?
You know, like, because if you actually saw the burial taking place, wouldn't you kind of just feel the need to go back to or tell somebody to say, hey, you know what, there's a body buried over there. We need to go and check it out, because this has been an elusive species on our planet for how many years now?
You could have like a Canadian redneck hunting party and just go out there guns a-blazing, you know? If they come out of the bushes and you get attacked, you just bushwhack them, take care of business, right?
In 1999, there were huge fires on Battle Mountain in Nevada, and apparently an injured Bigfoot was supposedly spotted in this carnage, and the U.S. government actually was seen taking this Sasquatch away and was captured live. I've never heard that before, and this came up in some research that I was doing, and this is one of the conspiracies, that the Bigfoot was actually captured live.
You were checking out some funky websites, man, because I've never heard of any of this stuff. I've seen the stuff on TV. I've seen some of the older conspiracy episode shows that were going into this stuff. You know, they were looking at the crazy, the supernatural, you know, all this stuff, almost like a hokey, comical look at things, you know, just a spoof.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, that kind of thing, right? But I didn't know about any of that stuff. And again,
well, apparently not only in Battle Mountain, but it was also Mount St. Helens after the 1980 eruption. Apparently they actually were seen taking away burnt corpses of Sasquatches, and they were taking them away by helicopter. So this was actually in 1980. So this wasn't, you know, we're talking about 40 years ago, maybe just under 40 years ago.
Are you sure that those bodies weren't just actual fatalities due to the Mount St. Helens eruption? That would make sense.
So these are the conspiracies. And were they not like bears, or were they just not other, you know, wildlife that actually lived in the mountains at that time? How do you differentiate if that was a Sasquatch that was being taken away? You know, you would have been doing that from a distance, because there's no way they would have allowed you onto a burning mountain at that point for you to actually see that that was a Sasquatch. So these are some of the conspiracies that come up, and then you have to think in your head, like, what are these people seeing? Are they doing this to get notoriety or have their 15 minutes of fame because they're telling this story? They're going to be able to get on TV or into, you know, the newspapers or whatever it is, because we actually have no proven fact. Somebody came with some hair that they found, and for years and years and years, nobody would test it, and they finally got it tested, and the guy was so sure this was Bigfoot hair, this was Bigfoot hair. He's like, no, I know it. And it came out, the DNA showed it was deer hair. Again, what are we seeing and believing in our own minds here?
Yeah, but I mean, you would know deer hair. For somebody to not realize what it is, like if it had some weird texture or there was some kind of characteristic to it, like it was translucent or there was some kind of weird effect off the hair, or if it was like really thick, if it just didn't match up to, let's say, a wolf or a bear or a deer or anything like that, then maybe. But I mean, come on, just to have this hair sample in your pocket and nobody wants to look at it. Well, first of all, they probably thought the guy was crazy. Maybe that's why they didn't want to test it.
That's the thing. I think that's what the lab was thinking. You know, we're not testing this stuff. This is such nonsense. We're not doing this right now. Forget about it. But he just kept persisting on them. Test it. And he kept writing them letters till finally they just gave up one day and said, you know what? Here it is. Here's your DNA sample. It's a deer. Leave us alone.
Okay. Right now, we're going to look at an actual sighting, and it was on TV during the $6 Million Man episode where Steve Austin had to fight the Bigfoot. And according to IMDb, Andre the Giant was Bigfoot. There.
That's pretty much as close as you're going to get to Bigfoot, right?
Mic drop.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you go on IMDb $6 Million Man episode with Bigfoot, Andre the Giant. Didn't know that. I always thought it was Wilt Chamberlain, and that's what I saw, Andre the Giant. So that's another really cool fact that we came up with.
Here's a funny story. One of the conspiracies that is out there is tying back into the UFOs is that Bigfoot is actually an alien. And this here is where you get two conspiracies for the price of one. In 1973, Pennsylvania UFO researcher Stan Gordon said he noticed an increase in sightings of Sasquatches entering and exiting extraterrestrial vessels. He was fascinated by the possibility that the mysterious primates may actually hail from another planet. This just blows my mind. I don't know how people how much time you have on your hands to come up with these kind of stories. Now we're talking about a Sasquatch entering a spaceship and a spaceship flying away. Where are these sightings coming from? These conspiracies are just out there. This is why people don't want to believe, because there's a lot of crazy people out there telling a lot of crazy stories.
Okay, so listen, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know how to respond to that. That's just, I think I'll just leave it because
there's actually still to this day a UFO Bigfoot hotline. He actually set this up. This researcher, Stan Gordon, actually set up this UFO Bigfoot hotline, and it is still active today. So people actually still believe this, are still calling into this hotline, are still giving stories in. And it just blows my mind. I just don't understand it. I mean,
if it comes to be proven, more power to them. That's all I got to say. But until
I'll be the first one to apologize.
Yeah, I'll just say, sorry, man. Props. Yeah. You guys were right. We screwed up.
Yeah.
Until that day happens, though, we'll put that in the, I think I'll pass on that one, locker. I guess we'll move on now to a really famous one that people have been talking about forever, and that is Loch Ness. Read books, seen TV shows, they basically do a sonar sweep of the whole loch, this and that. They talk to the locals. No one actually sees anything. From what I understand, way back in the beginning part of the century, it all came down to an elephant that used to go into the loch and used to swim. And it would only have its trunk exposed above its body. And they would see that, plus the big wake behind the trunk. So you could imagine how huge an elephant is. And you could say, that's totally believable. Also, a lot of people said that it was a school of salmon in the shallows during mating season or something along those lines. Or it could have been, who knows, some strong currents with some wind. You throw in a little bit of fog, some hooch, some whiskey or something like that, some scotch. And there you go. You got yourself a party. I don't know. What have you heard? Because I'm sure you've done more research on this than I have, but those are the main areas that keep coming up for this conspiracy.
Well, once again, you're going to have the actual same thing as Bigfoot and UFOs. You got your grainy footage. You got your grainy photos. You have the famous photo that came out many years ago, and that was proven to be a hoax as well.
And I think that was the elephant trunk that was above the water, if I'm not mistaken.
It was actually something else. I don't remember what it was. I think it was something else that they just kind of enhanced, or they did some kind of modifications to the photo. It actually was nothing to do with a monster. I remember watching a documentary on this, and they proved that this was just a hoax and that it didn't actually exist. And once again, here we are with all this technology today. The megapixels that we have on our cameras, the video cameras that we have out there, and nothing has ever been captured on video. You can't really explain that there are, people being dragged into the water down there, or the boats being, taken over like the Kraken, anything like that.
Release the Loch Ness.
Yeah. And it just, again, it just doesn't register with me how this creature exists. Now, scientists have actually come out and said there is a possibility something to that effect exists. However, they are called giant eels. And these giant eels
Okay,
are actually in the water. Doesn't mean that it's the Loch Ness monster, but they're giant eels, which do exist on our planet. And that's that. So people want to believe once a conspiracy starts, they want to kind of jump on the train and be a part of this conspiracy. And then maybe the mind tricks itself into thinking that they're seeing things that they're actually not. I don't see this monster actually existing. And from the amount of years that it has actually existed or been a conspiracy, why has a body never ever washed up? How long does this thing live? And, you know, the body has never been found. Has anybody searched for this body? I'm sure there's divers in there that have tried to search for the body, or people that have gone in there with sonar or cameras underwater to try and find this thing, and no proof.
Well, because they say that there's a cave system that it uses to go back and forth between the loch and the ocean. And come on, you know.
We're talking about an educated monster that lives in the water that has actually outsmarted humans. Is this what they're talking about? We can't find these caves that they can get, you know, into the ocean and back into the loch over here. And is this what people are actually thinking?
You know why it's never been proven, right? It's because the disguise that Nessie is using. So, you know, you get the dollar store fake glasses with the nose and the mustache.
Mr. Incognito. Yeah. Yeah.
It puts that on, and then that's it. Completely disappears.
Goes for a stroll on land, you know.
Yeah, the locals think it's just, you know, Bob that lives down the lake.
Yeah.
You know,
so we're not making fun of these things, but we are at the same time, because some of these conspiracies are so far-fetched, and I actually really don't understand how they start, or how somebody actually comes out with it and says, hey, you know what, this is actually going to make news and people are going to follow me and people are going to believe this conspiracy. Because anyone with half a brain to actually believe some of this stuff actually happened, I don't buy it. Am I saying that they don't exist? No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they don't exist. We don't know for sure. But some of the conspiracies that have come out are some of the most convoluted stories I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, so you forgot one important factor here. Money. Okay, so these places outside of tourism, they don't have much going on. So all the business that's brought in by these people coming in, you know, they have to buy food. If they're staying there, they have to rent a place to stay for like a week or two. Bed and breakfast, hotels, restaurants, souvenirs. There you go. Money, right? So that's what I think the driving factor is in most of these areas. Oh, we got like some chupacabra running around in the backyard. He's playing poker with Loch Ness and the Sasquatch, and, you know, the aliens come down and they have a big party, you know, stuff like that.
But it's funny. I was actually listening to a comedian, and he kind of made the same thing. And how do you stimulate an economy of anywhere in this world? How do you stimulate the economy over there? You build a thing, a big fucking thing. This is exactly what he said, and it makes sense. So you build this thing, and he goes, I don't care what you call it, as long as it's big and as long as it's a thing. And that is going to drive people to come there, because you know what? Oh, I got to see this thing. Next thing you know, there are big fucking things hotels, and big fucking things casinos, and big fucking things like tourism and all this stuff. So now if you have the Loch Ness monster and you have Bigfoot and you have UFOs, people always want to be driven to go and see those things. So is this all just a hoax to get tourism to actually pick up over there, and that they make a lot of money off of it? That's a possibility as well.
What was that famous line in that baseball movie? If you build it, they will come.
That's right. Field of Dreams. Yeah. Yeah.
That 100%. Was a really good movie, by the way. It was a really good movie.
100%. And could this be just so that people want to come to see these sightings that have happened and check it out for themselves and spend money in those towns or cities? It's quite possible.
Now, I know that there's other topics that we can discuss, but we're probably going to leave those for another episode. For example, I have a true story of a certain experience that I had, and my brother was there. He experienced it as well, of the supernatural, paranormal, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And it was, I'm not going to go into it right now. You guys are going to have to tune into that episode when it comes out in the near future, but it really makes you think and it gives you pause because there is stuff out there that we aren't aware of and we don't have an explanation for. So,
we'll get into
I'm going to hold
that.
off on that until we get into it in that episode. But
we'll get into that in another episode. We can talk about HAARP. We can talk about chemtrails. There's so many conspiracy theories out there. A lot of stuff that gives people who want to do podcasts a lot of stuff to talk about because there's a lot of crazy theories out there. Some of them are true, some of them are not. Some of them are just so far-fetched that it's just unbelievable. But we'll leave some of these for another episode. So hopefully you'll be able to tune into that as well.
Yeah, so I think we can wrap it up there. If there's any extra content that doesn't fit on our YouTube channel and that we can't present here, we'll put it in the resources page and you'll find that on the left-hand side of our PodBeam website. So,
and if you have any comments or you have any questions regarding today's episode, just check us out on social media. You can reach us at PodJerky on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. You can also hit us up on YouTube. And then you can ask us any of your concerns or make any comments, what you think about today's episode, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. So I think that'll wrap it up for today's episode. For Master Impressive, I am Director Awesome. As always, stay safe, be kind to each other, and we'll see you later.
Here we go now! Play that beat!
Pod Jerky.